got Ole Miss, LSU, number 9 Ole Miss at LSU. So they're going down to the Death Valley. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, ABC. Quick notes on this one: 3.5-point spread. So this is one of the closest spreads this week in the SEC, and then a 64.5 over. So both these teams do not. One of these teams doesn't like playing defense. LSU, Ole Miss, this defense is certainly pretty impressive this season. And actually, it's probably the story of the season. So thoughts on this game?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Ole Miss defense kind of being the story of the season for them. We said it in our last episode that right now the Ole Miss defense is going to be what propels them to win games, especially, LSU right now coming off a bye. Ole Miss had to play last week, kind of treated it like a bye with how much they ran, South Carolina, but they left that game down there. Maybe one of their best offensive players in Trey Harris right now, not looking like he's going to be playing this weekend. So the defense for Ole Miss is going to need to be the key piece for them if the offense can't get it going without their star player. They're pressuring quarterbacks, and we saw in the South Carolina LSU game that you can pressure Nussmeier and force him to make mistakes. If you don't get pressure on him, he's very, very good at finding guys that are open, and he has good receivers who can get open. So I think that is how I'm feeling for this game, that if Ole Miss wants to win, the defense needs to get to Nussmeier early and often.
Yep. And it's Nuss bus versus darts only. And so for Ole Miss, it's, is this defense for real? And if it is, show me again. You showed me last week. You locked down South Carolina 3 points. Prove it again this week. If this defense doesn't look legit, can Ole Miss win in a shootout? It's going to be tough with question for me. It's going to be tough without Trey Harris. When you think about the power rankings, Ole Miss for me was behind LSU for a couple different reasons, and injuries play a role, right? We don't know how long Trey Harris is going to be out, as a massive piece to be missing compared to you look at the receiving core over at LSU. Still has Kyron Lacey healthy, very impressive. And so for Ole Miss, want to see more of what we saw from Jaxson Dart last week. 2 touchdowns, I think, for him, and getting multiple players involved. Henry Parrish had a solid game against this LSU defense that has shown some vulnerabilities against UCLA, against USC. Looked much improving in South Alabama, and I think that says something. But this is an opportunity for LSU on their side to show that they can slow down a team like Ole Miss, who has what some would say is a playoff offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And LSU's defense right now is not their key to winning games. It is that offense. But, you lose a guy out there in Trey Harris on the other side of the ball, and you're like, okay, well, now we need to game plan for something a little bit different. Juice Wells kind of being their number 1 target now. And if you can stop the running game for Ole Miss, if you're LSU, that's going to be how you force this team into being one-dimensional. They don't have that guy that they can really they don't have a guy like Trey Harris who they're throwing the deep ball to consistently. And if they're not running with Henry Parrish, you start to kind of limit Jaxson Dart's capability to be effective. So I think that LSU has the potential to do that. I think that LSU also has the potential to score on this Ole Miss defense if they can keep Nuss clean.
Definitely. And Caden Durham for LSU's looked pretty impressive this season. And I just, if you're looking for a game where Ole Miss's defense didn't look as impressive, the only thing you can really point to is the UK game, which is test 1 of 2 for them this season, I would say, with South Carolina and UK. So
I like Caden Durham. I think that he could be a key to this game. I'm still not entirely convinced on LSU's running offense right now. They're running the committee. Caden Durham's kind of taking a lead here after the Emory injury. I mean, right now, majority of I think about a third from what I remember of LSU's rushing yards are coming on breakout plays. So they're not running super effectively. And I think their only loss this year, it felt like the running game was what slowed them down from the passing attack they were really effective on. So I want to see that. I want to see Caden Durham come out and show that he can run consistently. The big play he had last week, the 86-yarder, not last week, but in the previous game. Yeah. So we can see something like that. It'd be good.
We'd love to see it, right? And back to with Ole Miss's defense being real or not, this defense is giving up less than 50 yards, I think, on the ground when it comes to rushing. So LSU definitely has their hands cut out. Or their work cut out for them here when it comes to trying to run the ball on them. And for LSU, it's who do you expect to have a bigger game this game? Jaxson Dart or Garrett Nussmeier, aka Nuss Bus?
I expect Nussmeier to have a bigger game. Right now, his favorite target is Mason Taylor, big tight end. But we are seeing Ole Miss's linebackers playing well in coverage. We talk about Chris Paul Jr. in every game, and he's been great in coverage when they need him to be. But you have Kyron Lacey, you have Aaron Anderson, guys that get great separation, guys that get open. So I think that Nussmeier has a bigger game here, but I don't expect Ole Miss's offense to slow down.
Yeah.
From a coaching standpoint, it's two good coaches in the SEC, Kiffin versus Kelly. I told you before we did this, it's a chess match between these two. They both want to win, one loss each. They're kind of looking down the barrel of their schedule and saying, okay, LSU has Alabama still. Ole Miss, they'll play Georgia this year.
Yeah.
So they're looking at this game, like whichever one of us wins this, it's really setting us up for success to make the playoffs because we know 2 losses can get you in for sure. 3,
Three's dicey, and LSU's got an upper hand here because they don't have any conference losses yet. So the USC loss, the jury's out on how good or bad that looks, and we've seen from the committee that early season losses, men in black fashion, you flash the little light in the face, and you kind of forget about it. It was so long ago. But this game for both teams will matter for playoff contention. I like the Tigers, in the swamp. I'm Creole. I'm going to go with LSU 35-31. They cover and the over hits with 66 points in this one. Ole Miss's defense is legit. I don't think it'll be a full shootout. And my question was, can Ole Miss win in a shootout? I think they can, but 35-31, I think LSU does enough. They got the mystique of Death Valley and out in Baton Rouge.
Yeah,
go Tigers.
It could happen. It can happen for sure. I mean, it's a good matchup here. I like Ole Miss 31-27. Close game, pulling it out. I could see, I mentioned Nuss is going to have a good game here. I could still see Ole Miss getting some pressure and forcing a turnover to shift the tides late in this game. So the defenses I talked about so well, I don't know, if the score necessarily reflects that, because these offenses do have really good quarterbacks at the helm that can make plays. So 31-27 Ole Miss on my side, but it could go either way.
It could go either way. It'll definitely be an interesting one. I could see some offensive explosion, but a lot of punch just given each team's rushing challenges. But we got our scores. Who we picked here. I got LSU. Hunter's got Ole Miss. And we'll be tuned in 7:30 on Saturday to see what happens Eastern.